you're going to trade away, at least in Jamal Adams, a young, fiery player who I've seen him watch tape, and they do little things, with ESPN, and he'll break down plays with those guys. He's a joy to watch do that. Like, he knows his assignments.
He's intelligent as hell. To think he does that on the field with a helmet on is even more amazing.
So to lose a guy like that, I think just really sets you back in his organization. And it's going to take a while before the Jets are good again. You got to really clean house.
Well, we also got another big one for the Saints defense. Marcus Davenport was part of that big pass rush in Saints. He's done for the year. He's having ending foot surgery. What is up with everyone's feet right now? Is there like a bad case of the Black Plague going around and eating everyone's foot away? Like, holy crap.
Yeah. I mean, just bigger, faster, stronger, right? I mean, these guys are carrying more weight, doing it at a faster rate.
You got to take care of your feet.
You do. You really do.
49ers placed wide receiver Marquise Goodwin on IR. That's another one I was surprised by because he was playing through a little bit of injury this season. Obviously, the stats weren't up as last year, but still, he was a weapon there for Garoppolo. Now it's only Samuel and Emmanuel Sanders on the outside. Yeah, Kittle's there at tight end, but for wide receiver, there's really no other guys. Like Dante Pettis doesn't scream, pass to me, buddy.
Yeah, I mean, obviously they just had that huge, awesome game against New Orleans. That was such a show. Loved watching it. Sanders was particularly spectacular. But if that rib injury, pops up again for him and he goes down, yeah, like you said, Dante Pettis, other young guys, Kendrick Bourne, really need to step up.
Also, too, big swing in the Raiders locker room. Man, they got embarrassed by the Titans. I mean, yeah, they were 21-21 at halftime, and then the Titans just turned into the sixth gear, and what was the final score? 42-21? It was bad. Like, second half was horrible for the Raiders.
Yeah.
They cut Terrell McClain, Preston Brown, and DJ Swearinger, and they placed one of their younger up-and-coming tight ends, Foster and Moreau, on IR. 4 big losses for them because McClain is a still solid defensive tackle. I feel like he'll get picked up off of waivers. Preston Brown is an inside linebacker that will probably get picked up. DJ Swearinger has had success in a lot of defenses in the NFL in different schemes, and he's played different positions. He's played the hybrid safety linebacker. He's played free safety. He's played strong safety, and he's still produced. So for them to cut him that soon after he's got there, maybe, 3 weeks ago?
Yeah, it was very recently.
So right there, that just shows. I mean, that just shows that I don't know what John Gruden's doing. I had faith in the Raiders a couple weeks ago, and then after this past 2 weeks, it's just been horrible. Like, it's been the ugly side of the Raiders we saw earlier in the season.
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't that long ago we were talking about this team and the momentum they were gaining. Look how
it looked like a wild card team.
Yeah. And now you can really feel the air coming out of the tires as this car clunks toward the finish line in the AFC.
Well, you know what, though? I mean, hopefully they can finish out the season strong, carry some momentum in next year. John Gruden still has a ton of draft picks from the trades he made recently. For next year, I think he has 2 first-rounders and 2 seconds still. So, I mean, he's still got draft picks that he can build up his roster he's building. It'd be his 4th year, and I mean the Raiders are nothing but patient with him because they already brought him so close to a Super Bowl the first time with him, and then he left and then destroyed the same team he built the year before. So I mean the Raiders have a ton of respect for him, and they're going to give him time. I don't see Mark Davis saying, "Oh, let's pull the plug now." He took time to build that last roster. He's going to do it again.
So now, in your opinion, the Jaguars are a rebuilding team. Are the Raiders a rebuilding team?
They're in the gray area, in my opinion. Because, they have... Josh Jacobs had an unfortunate shoulder injury, and it looks like he'll probably be out the rest of the season. He has a fracture in his clavicle. They're missing that wide receiver 2 spot, man. They don't have a solid wide receiver across from Tyrell Williams. Obviously, Waller's a stud tight end. The defense.
Well, the reason I ask is because I definitely think that they're much more of a rebuilding team than Jacksonville in terms of the young players on both sides of the ball. I mean, obviously, you have the well-experienced coach in Gruden, but he's still kind of a young coach in comparison to other coaches in the league. I mean, it doesn't feel like it because he's been out of the game for a while, but he is a pretty young guy in comparison. So the reason I ask is because they have all this draft capital. Does it make sense for the Raiders to try to move up and draft Joe Burrow at the number 1 spot going into Las Vegas, for their new season?
If you give Joe Burrow to, say, if they trade their first and their second, their extra first and their second to move up and go up and get Joe Burrow in next year's first, so that way they still have a first left in this round, yes, I'd gladly do it. I think they should, because if
just think about that.
Gruden is a QB guy. I mean, he had a segment on ESPN called Gruden's QB Camp, for Christ's sakes. So, and for all you youngsters that don't remember that, how dare you? Go look up on YouTube Gruden's QB Camp. It was wonderful. I really think that Gruden, if you give him a guy like Burrow coming out of college, he's obviously going to be a day 1 starter. You can groom him as he goes. Bring in a veteran backup in Oakland to help groom him. Don't do that where you just basically Derek Carr. There's nobody there to help groom Derek Carr when he first came in. Like, who was his backup for a while? Mike Glennon? Ooh. Like, give him someone he can use. Go get him Josh McCown. Don't even worry about playing McCown. Just put a pair of shoulder pads on him and have another coach to help groom him. That's what McCown will be.
Well, and talk about fans in the stands. I mean, with what Josh Jacobs and Darren Waller were able to accomplish this season and how young they are and that they're rising stars in this league. Defensively, you got a few pieces with Key and Farrell on the other side. They got to figure it out a linebacker for sure. But yeah, line. But a couple pieces on the back end there, and all of a sudden you've got a young, exciting team in a brand new stadium in Las Vegas.
Abrams was hurt, remember? Abrams looked good.
So I think it's very interesting, in the offseason when we talk about the Raiders and what they could do with those draft picks.
If they take one of their extra firsts and their second and a first next year, move up, go get Burrow right there. It's a 3 draft pick haul that a team will flourish with, obviously, with the Bengals and fill some spots. But then again, with that extra draft pick that I left behind out of that deal, the Raiders could go get wide receiver number 2 because this draft class is loaded.
Exactly.
With wide receivers. And there
you
go.
The slot guy in Renfro.
Yeah. I mean, Tyrell Williams, Hunter Renfro, Waller, it's such a solid young core. It really is. What are you laughing at?
No, I'm just thinking about the possibilities. I mean, I really think, talk about a Vegas crowd and being able to sell them on what possibly could be. You give them John Gruden, Super Bowl winning head coach, and that young cast going into the, gambling, let's pull the slot machine and see what happens type of atmosphere. Oh, my goodness.
Well, also, too, if you sit there and go, say if he's still left on the board, think what the Raiders could do with like a Laviska Shenault.
That's your boy, right?
No, I mean, I like him, but I mean, you still got other prospects out there. Like, what is Tyrell Williams? Obviously, is like he's a really good route runner. He has sneaky speed. I just think you need you already got Waller, your big guy, to go up and get it in the red zone. It's like you need a possession receiver, and none other. Even in the second round, he can get him. Colin Johnson.
Yeah.
Wide receiver out of Texas, 6'6", 235, 240, really solid catch radius. I mean, a lot of people think, he doesn't show up in bigger games. Well, Texas is kind of not known for being in bigger games lately. So I feel like if you put him with the Raiders and that crowd they have now, I think he would dominate corners. That's just me.
I mean, we all can certainly agree that Tyrell Williams certainly has exceeded all expectations coming into this season.
Everyone thought that he would crumble with AB leaving.
He was supposed to be number 2, and with him, with the circus with AB, it was like, oh God, but this whole team really, it definitely has exceeded expectations, and I'm excited for them going forward. If we want to wrap it up with the Raiders there, Jay, I'm not sure what you had planned next, but maybe we could touch on the wonderful game that was last night real quick.
Well, if Jay's there.
Oh, he's there. He's like,
Jay, are you there?
Can't wait.
Turn on your camera.
And if you haven't had enough of our banter tonight, you want to visit NFL Addictions on Facebook.com for all of your NFL banter and chatter. It's not a trash talk site, so keep it clean and keep it cordial. That's NFL Addictions on Facebook.com. And if you still got an itch to scratch when you're done with that, you want to visit Raz Addictions on Facebook.com for their version of the raffle for all kinds of cool prizes, even a chance at winning some cash. You buy a $10 raffle ticket for a chance at winning $100. That's a chance at making 10 times your money. It don't get any better than that. That's Raz Addictions on Facebook.com for a chance at all kinds of cool prizes. Tell them what you've won, Dave.
I've won everything from tailgating barbecue sets. That I have a Packers one that I won, folks, for $400. I put $40 down on the spot. I won it, and it was out of 20 spots. It's really worth it. I've also won helmets that are signed. I've won banners that are signed. I've won memorabilia rings. I've won footballs that are signed and other Packers knickknacks because that's my team. But go ahead and check them out. Cheap, affordable prices for certified, authentic stuff.
That's Raz Addictions on Facebook.com. Go there, play, and win. And as always, you can follow us on Twitter at First and Goal Pod, myself at UPJ33, Dave is at Steak and Cheese, and the fantasy wonder himself, Dillon, at Dillon Busby1. Email us at firstandgoalpodcast@yahoo.com with all your football and Packer questions and comments, and you just might find yourself making the show live. That's firstandgoalpodcast@yahoo.com.
Definitely Darby is. I mean, the coaching staff loves Mills, but I think Darby's gone. All right, guys, let's do it. Let's talk about the wonderful game that was the overtime win in Philadelphia last night. My Eagles pulled it through after the Giants got off to a hot start. It was 17-3 at halftime. It looked hopeless for Philly. Looked like they were going to just, the Cowboys keep holding the basketball, trying to pass it to Philadelphia to take the NFC East, and Philadelphia just keeps waving it off, telling them to kick it outside or just take the shot themselves. Because I tell you, the way Eagles were playing defense in the first half, the way the Eagles were playing offense in the first half, many people were saying it, and I completely agreed. This team didn't even deserve to be in the playoffs if they make it. You had adversity. Don't get me wrong. Injuries happened. Alshon Jeffrey went down early with a non-contact injury. As soon as he came off the line, you could tell it was bad. He just went down holding his leg. It was like he took a shot from a rifle.
Hurt his 11th toe.
And then, I've come to expect injury from Alshon. If you've even watched a game going back to his days in Chicago, he catches a pass, he gets hit, he goes out for a few plays, but then he comes back in, catches a touchdown, rinse and repeat. Well, this was not the case in this game. Alshon went down with the non-contact injury. He said he heard something popped and went off on a cart. So you knew that was bad. But then later on in the game,
sounds like a ligament.
Yeah. Later on in the game, Lane Johnson gets, the classic holding his block, and someone rolls into the back of his leg, folds him up. So he goes out. Now you're talking about Vitae at tackle. The Eagles came into the game because Nelson Aguilar was already ruled out. The Eagles only came into the game with 3 healthy, active wide receivers with Jeffrey, Arcega-Whiteside, and Greg Ward Jr., the former quarterback from Houston in college. And then once Alshon goes out, you're down to 2 healthy wide receivers on the entire roster. Josh McCown, ladies and gentlemen, was an emergency wide receiver if need be. If either Greg Ward or Arcega-Whiteside was going to miss time.
Arcega did go out.
He did. He went down for a few plays. Luckily, third-string tight end Josh Perkins is kind of built more like a wide receiver if you saw him play.
Wasn't surprised he was on some catches right there.
Yeah. He looked good. He's been, on and off the practice squad. He's been kicking around Philly for a while. So luckily we had him on deck. And then Boston Scott in the second half of this game came through huge. I mean, the running game in the first half was basically non-existent. Offense was non-existent in the first half, just trying to figure out what packages